You spoke about your lived experiences. Can you maybe just spend another minute or two elaborating on how your own lived experiences have shaped your life journey and approach to the work that you do today?
Okay. Lived experiences. I've had a few of them. Look, I think for me, the love of the sea was when I was young. Like I said, I learned to swim when I was about 4 years old. Used to go out and by myself. Mum used to give me some matches and a sunshine powder milk tin, and I'd go out for the day. Go out and harvest a few oysters, maybe a crab, throw it in that sunshine powder milk tin, and basically, you know, really and go out there and support myself and spend the whole day out there and come home on dark. And I was still in primary school in them days. So it's something that, you know, for me, the business of fishing, I used to be the best fisherman in the family, catch the most with whatever. Used to be able to tell you what was on the end of the line at one stage just by the different actions. That all went when I got a fishing rod, but used to just use the hand reel. But, you know, it is something where that's the beginning, I suppose, and I've always had a love. And then from there, I've ended up, when I was young, working on trawlers around Fraser Island, on the mullet and the prawns around there. And also one stage there, my parents, I joined them in Cardwell. I was a barra fisherman as well. And so, yeah, in them days, there was only one croc up that creek. I did get marooned there once with the croc for a couple of days, but he didn't bother me because I got rid of all my fish. But yeah, look, I could keep going, honestly, but it's something where I think with the business of the Tumras, me getting a voice in this arena and then being on these other different committees, it really sort of started.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Diane?
It's Bob. For me, field work, and I've done effectively a lot of field work in tidal wetlands along the reef and counting seabirds in the Capricorn Bunker Group, which is an interesting proposition, and a lot of island inventory work, just understanding. It gives you a sense of the rhythms of the country. And for me, there's nothing better than actually living life according to the rhythms of the tides. If you're doing field work, particularly on sea country, you actually have to follow the rhythms of the tide. And there's something, it must connect with our own biology, I suspect. And it just makes a sense of what you're doing and a sense of purpose. I think all of that has also taught me a level of patience and a level of willingness to listen and think and hear what other people are saying, and the need to actually get the win-wins rather than the trade-offs if you can. And that's really useful in terms of a lot of the negotiating tables that I've had.
It's probably a good little segue into where I was going to go next. And so you've both been very strong advocates for you know, your communities, your commitment to protecting the environment. How have you seen advocacy evolve for the Great Barrier Reef over the years that you've been involved?
It's interesting. I suspect for me personally, it's sort of progressed from effectively being an outsider throwing rocks in, for want of a better term. That was the sense of the 19s. Well, I came into it in the early 70s, but the sort of the late 60s, early 70s was really about starting the conversation, starting the passion, throwing the rocks in and seeing where those ripples went. And then learning how to actually influence, because effectively learning to influence is probably one of the really, really important things through life if you're doing what I'm trying to do. And it's about working what are the levers and what are the points of influence that you need to be able to follow through. And it's working at the multiple levels that where decisions are made, because decisions are usually made at various points along the way, and reinforcing the good ones and trying to mitigate the less than the perfect decisions. So yeah,
I think you've already heard me speak a little bit about this already. As far as, we've always had a struggle to get in there, advocacy. But it is something where it is changing, honestly. It is changing. And I know some of us have still got a lot of issues to deal with, but I do believe that the change that's happened in the last decade is phenomenal. And the different things that have been happening and the processes where our people are more involved at the table now, it is a lot different.
one addition that I forgot, the absolute importance of actually having good factual evidence for the proposition that you're making. Don't go into a room if you're in any way uncertain with your facts. You absolutely have to be true to your facts.
That's actually the question I've got down here. So how do you balance representing your personal or community associated lived experiences while navigating, that evidence-based decision making requirement and I guess let's just say it, the politics in behind it?
Something that Eddie said to me early on, you've got to learn to be thoughtfully unreasonable at the right times. So for me, that's something that I've just kind of taken to heart. And it's really about being open, listening, taking the evidence, challenging when you hear the evidence is counter to what people are saying, trying to have those respectful conversations. It's no use occasionally having a really strong argument, but really, really holding back on when you're thoughtfully unreasonable and just going in for the jugular when you can.
Yes, definitely a bit of human nature involved there as far as trying to read the crowd and what's sort of the flavour and how you're going to go. Yeah, because I know, like, for me, it is something where the business of just the business of facts, evidence, I only have to walk in the room. I'm Aboriginal. So that's my weapon, in a weird way. That's what I'm there for. And that's why people want to talk to me and ask them. But I also learnt that you can't be too confrontational and that the English language can be very powerful if you know how to use it properly. And so basically I can present myself in a way where I believe, I always say that people blink when they understand what I'm saying. They sort of, it's sort of a process where I can do it without, and no, the business of in the past, the anger and trying to raise our voices and all that was needed. But now we have to sit down and actually make a go of it.
I might go to the rover. Any questions from the floor for our panelists? One in the middle here. There's a microphone coming to you. Yep. Oh, no, it's right behind you. No, over this way.
Those two.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So I think I took from, thank you both so much for those wonderful timelines. And I think I took from that there's always a need, there's always a response and action that needs to be taken. For you, through these timelines, is there now for you a sort of increased sense of urgency, or is it just the next challenge, over to come?
For me, we really are we always say, you really are at a point, but I think unless we get ahead of emissions reduction, water quality and fisheries in the next 5 to 10 years, the prognosis for that system out there is really bleak. Even if we do get ahead, the prognosis around emissions reduction is such that we will have a changed ecosystem out there. How good that changed ecosystem is, how complex, how biodiverse, will really be dependent on what we do in the next 5 to 10 years on emissions reduction and water quality and fisheries.
Yeah, it's definitely agree with that. I think, yeah, for me, really, some of these things that are happening, and, you know, when I sit down and talk to my people, some of the elders are more worried about what they see on TV and the world's going to end and why bother, you know, sort of thing. And it is sad that that's sort of reflected, but it's something where I just try and tell them and tell my people that, yes, it's pretty scary out there what's happening in the world, and the business of us trying to be involved, and even though we've come in really late, trying to be involved with all of this process, it's something where it's stopping our people, stopping them from even stepping up or starting. So I just talk about, for me personally, the only thing I can do is look after my patch. And all these influences and impacts and whatever, I'm just going to have to try and manage.
Certainly the HOPE budget is one that we need to invest in quite significantly. Now, there was one on the table here. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rehan, and I'm from Java Island, Indonesia, and I've just started my PhD at JSU. So it's a really huge privilege to be here. So I have a question for first Uncle Bob and Diane. So Uncle Bob, I'm interested particularly in the traditional owner knowledge recognition in Great Barrier Reef. Back home in my country, usually where we try to establish MPA, marine protected area, or other kind of like marine management plan, we usually, you know, like invite scientists coming from the capital to you know, give their expertise, and then the MPA established, and then at the end the local communities will be asked, okay, whether you agree or not with this like plan. So yeah, I'm wondering how is it here, and I'm interested like how it is integrated to the governance program that you've shared before. And then for Diane, you've mentioned about the threat coming from the extractive industries, and back home is one of the problems of the MPA. I would say the, you know, like structural social problem. You know, like where you know, people need to, usually like small scale fishers that needs to fish in the area, where here it's more like huge like extractive industries. And also one of the problems is coming not only, you know, in the area, but also coming from the terrestrial area, where some of the activities like agriculture will also impact the MPA. So I'm wondering, how is it is there any like integrated coastal management where, you know, I know like there is like multi-layer like governance, even like within the Great Barrier Reef, I imagine. And then I'm wondering how you can also you know, like coordinate with the terrestrial authority. So yeah, that's all my question. And I guess like we can have like, you know, like future conversation. This is just like initial question. Thank you.
So did you get your question peer reviewed? Like that was a long question. Thank you. Who wants to go first? Uncle Bob.
Okay. Yeah. Very similar to what you were saying as far as researchers going out, talking to people on country and asking if it's okay, and then, you know, looking at projects. But I think one of the things that we look at is, well, this is just the way we operate as far as aims, and through this program, the RAP program, it's something where it's not just a case of grabbing a scientist and having a 2-4 hour day talk. It really is a proper engagement. We actually find out who the the people that might have the authority in that region, and we talk about the cultural authority. And sometimes it's easy for us because we've actually gone through a native title case, and by law we have to follow the prescribed body corporate through the native title process. But not everyone's got native title, so we've had to work with family groups as well. But then with the family groups, we try and ask for a working group out of the families, and then we communicate with that working group. They go back to their families and talk to their families. So it's a little bit more involved, and sometimes I always say that it's more important to build up that relationship in a really meaningful way at the beginning, because if you've got a good relationship with your researcher, your traditional owners or your local people, they'll then trust that person. In the future, if they've got an issue that where they want something looked at or something else to be looked at in that region, they'll actually go up to that person, that researcher, and ask them to do it. And to have that, the trust from those people is really important. And really, the process that we do, if we upset the traditional owners anywhere during the whole program, they can still say no and stop it. So it is something that's always a very big, always recognised as a high risk for any project. If the engagement isn't done properly, you could lose the project.
In the interest of time, I think we should probably have the chat about, yes, we do attempt integrated coastal zone management here, and it's essentially under the heading of the Water Quality Improvement Plan. So the reality is the reef is, if anything, overgoverned. It is a very complex place of policy, legislation and governance arrangements across multiple layers of government and the full set of communities. So it's complicated, but it is there.
Okay, so I've got the big T from, as in time, from the organisers over here. So can you please put your hands together once more to thank Uncle Bob Muir and Diane Tarte.